Hello everyone and welcome to the final tournament centre of a pulsating 2011 Magic the Gathering World Championship and Pro Tour season with me, Rich Hagon, and the Pro Tour historian Brian David-Marshall.
Hey everybody.
It's been an amazing Sunday.
It's been unreal. It all started Thursday when we had 13 players who could have won the Player of the Year title. Some 3 or 4 players who could have won the Rookie of the Year title. Some 400 players who could be the Magic the Gathering World Champion. 12 players who could be the Magic Online Championship Series winners.
That's where we begin our Sunday roundup. The Magic Online Championship this morning seems a decade ago and more, but it saw Reed Duke of the United States taking on Florian Pils of Germany. BDM, what happened?
Well, what happened is Reed Duke had played Zoo yesterday. He played Zoo yesterday in Modern. He knew that Florian Pils had played Zoo. He built a Jund deck overnight. He switched into Jund, and he was able to terminate and Bloodbraid and Blightning and Liliana and ultimately Grave Titan his way to victory over Florian Pils for the Magic Online Championship Series title.
$25,000 to Florian Pils, $17,000 going to his second place to Reed Duke, $25,017 to Florian Pils. So then we got into the top 8 of Worlds. 4 quarterfinals. Epic, the lot of them. The story, of course, coming in. 4 players from Team Channel Fireball making it in. Conley Woods.
Was that the story, or was the story Conley Woods himself? Obviously, we've gotten used to the fact that Channel Fireball is going to just dominate an event. They started the season dominating Pro Tour Paris. That's old news. The new news was Conley Woods. Okay. Conley Woods playing the best Magic of his career, playing tight, playing focused, playing the team deck, mulliganing, not trying to be a showman, just trying to find the right play. And he went 13-0 before conceding to teammates to get them into the top 8.
Yep. He literally did not lose before the top 8. Into the quarterfinals we went. David Kaplan of Canada took on Palavita Dama de Rosa of Channel Fireball in Brazil.
Speaking of stories, let's just acknowledge Paulo's 8th Pro Tour top 8. His 4th World Championship top 8.
Yep, absolutely extraordinary. 06, 08, 10, 11. But Paulo ended his run in the quarterfinals. Kaplan emerged 3-1. Louis Scott Vargas, Channel Fireball with Tempered Steel, up against Richard Bland of England. And that one went the way of the Englishman by 3-2. 2 Channel Fireball crew members down. Josh Utter-Layton faced junior Ienaga of Japan. You thought this was the matchup that Ienaga might win.
I really had Channel Fireball through most of the other matches. I had Ienaga through to the finals right from the start.
Well, you were absolutely right. Ienaga won that one over Josh Utter-Layton. And then Woods against Wesco. What an amazing match that was. Conley Woods took a 2-0 lead. Wesco edged his way back really super tough, got to 2-all. Looked like Wesco was in great shape in the decider, and Woods refused to lie down and die.
Yeah, he was in a terrible situation. He was way behind. He found a play where he had to animate his Inkmoth Nexus, dispatch a Fiend Hunter, Glint Hawk back his Inkmoth Nexus that he'd animated, replay it to buy the extra turn. He had to cross his fingers, hope Craig Wesco doesn't draw anything that is going to disrupt his plan, and then he's able to just attack in and steal the match from Craig Wesco.
It was an amazing climax to the quarterfinals. Then we came out for the semis. That saw Woods, therefore, against Ienaga, but this was where the Woods story ended. Ienaga still had the same deck, still had the same matchup, and it was still too good for Tempered Steel. Top tip from Brian David-Marshall, don't take that Tempered Steel deck to FNM.
If the people at your FNM watched the top 8 webcast, you probably don't want to play Tempered Steel this Friday. Wolf Run just demolishes it. It tramples all over it, literally and figuratively.
The other semifinals saw Richard Bland of England taking on David Kaplan of Canada. It looked like Bland was the favorite. That worked out. It was 3-0 to Bland, and that set up an Ienaga-Bland final. But first, we had the matter of the teams and the Rookie of the Year. So, Japan against Norway. Who won?
the victory went to the Japanese team on the back of Mihara, who was a former world champion, playing the modern leg of the team event. And it was a really, really grindy final game, which involved both players working their Grove of the Burn Willows, punishing fire combo, and Mihara eventually finding a couple of spell skites, a Deceiver Exarch, a Kiki Jiki, forcing Jonarund to aim a punishing fire at one of those creatures, giving him a little extra life, just a little extra room to maneuver, and finally for Japan to win another team championship, which meant...
As a result, Svein and Bjornerud just came up short in the Rookie of the Year race, tied with Fabian Thiele for second. That meant that Matthias Hunt of the United States, your Rookie of the Year for 2011. Now, we still had one match to go. That was the final. But by that time, we had a Player of the Year, and that man was Owen Turtenwald. We'll get more from him in just a moment. But the final, Ienaga against Bland, Japan against England. You called it for Ienaga.
Yeah, Ienaga just won in 3 quick games, pretty brutal. The Titans were just too much for Bland to deal with. They came down on turn 4, and he ran away with it. And, you know, it's just a great weekend for Ienaga. He played 32 matches of Magic. 32. Played 18 Swiss rounds here. He played, I think, 11 rounds of the Magic Online Championship Series. He then played 3 rounds of the top 8, and he won them all. As a result, he walks away this weekend with $51,000 in winnings, just shy of the record that was set in this room in 2004 by Julian Naughton when he won Worlds and took home over $52,000.
Absolutely extraordinary stuff. And arguably the most extraordinary performance of the entire year didn't come today. It came on the previous 364 days that have made up the season, as it were. And it is a great pleasure and a privilege to welcome to the stage the 2011 Player of the Year. Come on in, Mr. Owen Turtenwald of the United States.
Congratulations, Owen.
Thank you, thank you.
Great job.
So this was an up and down weekend for you emotionally. You finish in 33rd place by one of these hairs right here, and which is a crucial point, you're thinking, in terms of the Player of the Year race. What was going through your head when the standings were posted at the end of the Swiss rounds?
At the end of the Swiss rounds, I wasn't happy, just because coming into Worlds, there was like 3 people that realistically could catch me. There was like LSV, PV, Martin, and Martin was out pretty quick on day 1. So to have the 2 of them make top 8, Luis needed a reasonable performance of going 1-1 in matches, and PV needed to win. And from the back of the crowd, Josh could also win. He wasn't on anyone's radar coming into the Player of the Year race. So the fact that there were 3 people that could catch me, it was just like, we'll see.
So, 3 memories of you. 2007, you're this very young man, like 16, 17, Pro Tour Valencia. That's my first real interaction with you. I thought, oh, there's some guys doing well. Good effort, top 32, somewhere around there, I think. And then beginning of the 2010 season, we had dinner at GP Oakland. You and a bunch of guys, and we talked about putting yourself in the position to win, whether you could see yourself holding the silverware. And there were people sort of going, yeah, of course I can see that. And there were other people being more thoughtful. And you were silent. And I went away from that dinner going, he's going to win one day, but he doesn't think he's ready himself yet. And you really didn't then, did you?
Probably not.
No. And now, 2011, you came into the season. It was clear it was a different you. What changed?
Well, I mean, I just had put a whole new effort into it. I mean, at the beginning of the years when I started playing with Channel Fireball, and that just made the huge difference, because it's just a huge group of smart people, and everybody just makes everybody else a little bit better. Everybody can see other people's flaws, and they're not going to sit there and say nothing and let you keep making the same mistake. If you mess up, everybody's going to point it out. First, to make fun of you, and second, so you learn it and you're not going to do it anymore. So it was a great learning experience, and it just easily just took me to the next level.
There are multiple people, of course, who have won Player of the Year. Nobody in the history of the game has made 7 Grand Prix top 8s. And it's not like you've been visiting the European shores all that much. You've done 7 GP top 8s in relatively few starts. What does that achievement mean to you?
It's cool. It's very cool. I mean, I'm happy. I'm very happy.
So let me ask you a slightly tough question. I imagine you've been asked this already. The 3 people who can catch you, pass you in the Player of the Year race in the top 8 are all good friends of yours. That has to be mixed emotions for you, watching them play in the top 8, knowing that if they lose, you're the Player of the Year, and that if they win, you're not, but you want to cheer for your friends. What is that experience like watching that?
It was really just bittersweet. I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, coming in, I always hope for them to do well, and seeing 3 of them in the top 8 was awesome, 4 with Conley, and just watching the matches, it felt like I was telling myself it's a win-win, because if they all lose, I win Player of the Year. Awesome for me. If one of them goes deep and does well, excellent. It's a win for the team. And that, as a collective, you're not going to do any much better than that. But watching the matches actually break down in Luis's Game 5, every turn is just like, he needs a land. He needs a land. And then the last turn, he needs a land or a Memnite or a Mox Opal, and he wins the match and goes on and beats me for Player of the Year. Him losing is just like, well, that sucks, but it's looking pretty good for me now. And then it became real for me when I was watching Raptor play in Game 4 against the winner, and the guy's hand is like Inferno Titan, Slag Storm, and he's got all the lands, and Raptor's mulligan to 5, and I'm just like, every turn gets worse and worse for him, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty good.
So it's very funny. Down the stretch, you did a couple of interviews with people. You did an interview with me in the column. I believe you talked to Rich, and you said, you know what? I just really, for me, it's about making level 8. You were very even keeled. You said Player of the Year, but I saw you. You were right in front of the booth when it sunk in that you had just won Player of the Year, and it was a genuinely. You're not a person who beams often, and you were ecstatic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was never as real as it was when it actually happened. The whole year, it's just an afterthought. It's like, well, I'm going to go to all these tournaments that I would go to anyways, and I'm just going to play my best and hope to do well. And Player of the Year is just on the back burner. I mean, and level 8 was on the back burner too. It's just from, like I said, I would go to these tournaments anyways, and I would play anyways because I just love to play. And it's just like, it just happened by accident pretty much. And then when we got closer to Worlds, it's just like, oh, well, I could sort of win Player of the Year, even though I was in first for the race the entire year, minus like a month after Ben Stark had won Pro Tour Paris. He was a little bit of a lead, but being in first the whole year and then think just that it could have been stripped away at the last minute, it would not have felt good.
Some of the greatest players the game has ever seen have been Player of the Year. When you see your name added to that list, how do you feel about that, your place in the history of the game?
Well, I mean, it clearly feels great, and just the names. They have a huge like thing where they have everybody's names who won Player of the Year inscribed on it. And I was reading it Thursday morning before competition, and you read the list and it goes Kai, someone, Kai, and then the last years are Shouta and Yuya and just some of the best players in the game. So it's just like, and then the next slate is just blank. So it's like, oh, it'd be pretty cool if they put my name up there.
They are certainly going to put his name up there, and for as long as the game is played, Owen Turtenwald will be there as your 2011 Player of the Year, a record-breaking year, and he ends on top of the pile. It has been an amazing year. It's been great to see Owen around the world and all our great players. We thank you for your company. For Brian David-Marshall, the Pro Tour historian, for the final time this year, I'm your host, Richard Hagon, saying bye.